Welcome to the Left Hemispheres podcast. I'm Jack, and this is episode 16. Everybody loves leftovers. Now, if you're a regular listener to the show and you listened last time, then you know we said we were going to do one more episode before we did a clip show, but things got a little screwed up. I had some technical difficulties over here, and I screwed up the record file this week. So we're going to do the clip show early, and with any luck, Nick will have an interview piece in 2 weeks for the next episode. Also, me and Steve want to go over real quick the results of the first quarter of our Left Hemisphere swear jar.
All right, so the swear jar tally, including the Phantom episode number 16, is Adam with $41, Jack with $56, Nick with $134, and myself, Steve, with $139, plus the $50 I lost to Nick in a bet. So that brings the Left Hemispheres total to $420 that we will donate to Foundation Beyond Belief at the end of our first quarter of doing the swear jar tally for the Left Hemispheres podcast.
That's not bad. At that pace, we're going to average about $2,000 a year. Well, I feel pretty good about that. Anyway, everybody, like I said, this episode's a clip show. It's all outtakes and cutting room floor stuff, and we really hope you enjoy it. The next episode where you'll actually hear all four of us sitting down together is going to be April 22nd, so we got about a month. Looking forward to it, but until then, once again, I'm Jack, and for Steve, Adam, and Nick, we hope you enjoy, and we'll see you in a month.
What's that?
So it doesn't matter who it is. It'll be a bag of dicks. They're the enemy.
That's the
as long as Ratzinger's still alive, they're just gonna be Vader to the Emperor anyway. So,
and he's gonna be holed up in the Vatican too.
I know. It's just like, are you just?
It's so Vader and Emperor.
Watched too much Star Wars.
Spare me. Yeah.
Strike me down. Do it. Let me flow through. Embrace the dark side.
Nick, did you see you put forth that question on Left Hemisphere's Facebook this morning? Who would be the good opposite of Ratzinger? And there was a couple serious ones, including mentions, and then someone put Luke Skywalker.
Right. Yeah. Which I had thought of, except that I would not posit. There's a certain way that he would be the opposite, and there's other ways that he wouldn't. I mean,
at first,
he's the opposite.
Disagreed,
there's
and then
the light.
I thought about it. I was like, no, that works.
There's the light dark, which Luke Skywalker and the Emperor, so opposites. But if you're talking about actually being like diametrically opposed, then you would have to pick someone who does not have a faith system, because Luke Skywalker has a faith system.
Yeah, but I think the point was like,
but the Force is real, so it's not a faith system.
It's a religion in the military.
It's midichlorian.
Well, if you're going to really dig as far into Catholic dogma as you want and pull out anything, all of Star Wars can be considered canon because there is a Vader grotesque on the Washington National Cathedral.
Huh?
Yeah, you made that comment a while back.
There's a Vader grotesque on the Washington National Cathedral. Therefore, Star Wars is part of Catholic dogma.
I have not seen this.
Look it up. It's there.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah.
All right, what am I Googling here?
Cathedral Washington Vader.
Yeah.
What? That can't be real.
Yeah, it is. You're kidding me.
That is absolutely real.
And what is it that's opposite of him? Is that a fucking fox? Swiper, no swiping?
Yeah, it's either a fox or a raccoon swiper. That's Swiper from Dora. There's a fucking backpack on the other side.
That's actually the gopher from Caddyshack. That's actually part of Catholic dogma too. All hail Bill Murray. Bill Murray should be the next pope. That's what I'm.
Yeah, he should be.
That's what I'm voting for.
I'd convert.
This isn't like just like some like random Mayan etching where you're like, oh yeah, that bears a vague resemblance to Darth Vader. No,
It's him.
That is Darth Vader.
Yeah.
What is this building?
The Washington National.
Dude, it's the Washington National Cathedral. I've been there.
So this
is where they have the inaugural presidential prayer or thing like that.
Okay.
It is the 6th largest cathedral in the world.
Wow.
Star Wars is part of Catholic dogma.
So when is St. Vader's Day?
St. Vader's Day. That would be, like May 23rd?
And he finds your lack of faith disturbing.
But there was an idea planted in my head today. Steve, you should sprinkle Pop Rocks in Azrael's cat box.
That's just mean.
His cat is already evil. I don't think he's really just on the cusp of plotting Steve's demise.
I really don't need to wake up dead.
And, both of them, the Super Bowl and the Republican Party, both fairly jingoist
Hey,
type.
go fuck yourself.
Yeah, well, sorry, that's one of the things Chomsky's right about. I can't help it. It's not my fault.
No. Go fuck yourself. You think all those mass holes that are rooting for New England are fucking Republicans? I don't think so.
No, I'm not saying they're Republicans. I'm saying that football is a jingoist training program.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Oh, wait, my city's awesome. Why? Because those 12 guys can beat up the other 12 guys better? Fuck you.
It's 11.
Yeah. Learn your fucking shit, asshole.
Oh, so suddenly his argument is invalid.
My argument is invalid because I'm
right.
wrong about the numbers.
That's right.
That's why I said it, because it's a joke. Come on. It's 11. Your argument is invalid. You don't know what you're saying. Hey, I have problems.
You made a minor mistake. I mean, you can form a philosophy corporation. We don't have a product, but we know why. And of course, you can find us on FaceMill. That fucking worked out well. That fucking worked out well. Let me rewind and retract that fucking statement.
Face meal. That's the truth.
Face meal. Soylent Green is face meal.
I just started thinking of zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, dude, that was the horrible fucking images in my head. The laughing is terrible.
It's face meal, which is what
Or Gmail and Facebook combined.
Yes, well, it's what Lori became part of. Face meal.
Right. Face meal.
I mean, it was that was why it was because of those changes that were being accepted. What the hell? What the hell is that?
What?
Why do I have Rachel Ray talking in my fucking headphones?
What are you talking about?
You opened
Hold
a
on.
page with a commercial?
Apparently there is one, but it wasn't. I haven't opened anything up.
Is Rachel Ray your Jesus and she's talking to you?
It's just pissing me off. 'Cause I was in the
You
middle
are
of something.
hearing the word of olive oil.
EVOO. I'll go eat it.
Which is just insulting, by the way. There's no reason to cook with extra virgin olive oil. It makes a great salad dressing, but if you're going to, heat it up anyway, it doesn't need to be extra virgin.
Right. Save that for the sacrifice.
Extra virgin, that's only good for sacrifices. Scientific method and faith are completely incompatible. I feel like I need to say this again and again. It always comes up. They're just two completely incompatible ways of looking at the world. The only way that the two things they can exist in a person's mind simultaneously. You can't use both simultaneously.
Well,
what? Well, what?
You can, if
not if it's accurate.
If your name is Deepak Chopra and you're trying to fucking sell something.
Well,
Well, no. Then you just say a bunch of buzzwords.
Yeah, perception is the path to descriptions of force fields.
Yeah.
Mice are insects. Your body explores subjective reality. Our consciousness experiences the flow of belonging.
You're
This is from that
frightening
wisdom.
good at
I meant that wisdom of Chopra.com site. Nature constructs unbridled happiness. Oh, and you can't differentiate between what he says and
babble. No,
yeah.
randomly.
The mind differentiates into expansion of protons.
See, and you were worried that we weren't going to have enough stuff with your 5 legs.
It always explodes.
It always does. We put 8 things on the show, and then we end up with 4 or 5 hours of tape, and I'm like, what am I going to cut?
Yeah, well, I seriously cannot be up until 3 a.m. like last time.
That's the irony of the computer revolution, is that they said would cut down on paper usage, and if anything, it has fucking blown paper usage up. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Do you know how many people I know? Like, I send them something, in Word,
and they'll print it out before they read it.
Oh!
What is that staticky noise?
What?
Steve's beard, like it always is.
Will you please just shave that shit, you fucking backwards European hairy bastard?
I've stopped moving. I was just swiveling in the chair randomly.
It's still there. It's like whenever you talk, man.
What?
Yeah.
Scrapey, scrape.
It must just be the microphone because the thing is nowhere near my fucking face. It's pinned up on my shoulder.
Maybe it's brushing against your chest hair.
I am Irish, so there's only minimal amounts of that.
Do you have a shamrock pinned to your fucking...
And it's not like I have it clipped to my bare chest.
Can we try that? It might be your shirt.
Hey, I'm willing to give it a shot. No, I really don't know why it's being scratchy. I'm looking at it.
I'm still disturbed by the fact that beer in cans is cheaper than bottled water, which I can't get my head around.
Well, you go to Europe and wine's cheaper than bottled water.
Yeah. You know that you in America can get Australian wine cheaper than we can get the same thing here.
Really?
Yellowtail?
Yellowtail, yep.
Yeah, that's everywhere.
You guys get it for like $6 a bottle or something, and we get it for like $9.
Yeah.
And it's made here, which is just ridiculous.
Clean water from Fiji is cheaper in the U.S. than it is in Fiji.
Oh dear. Cool.
Yeah, so instead I settled for a local Pittsburgh brew, Pious Monk Dunkel, which is brewed from at the Church Brew Works, which is repurposed Catholic church. It's a brew pub and restaurant.
That's probably a better purpose for it.
Oh, definitely. There's 3 repurposed churches in Pittsburgh. One of them is the Brew Works, and is the nave. Is that the big kind of concave thing?
Yeah.
But that's still there, and then all of the vats and everything are all around that.
That's cool.
And then there's 2 music venues that are former churches, which makes sense because they're built to have good acoustics.
Yeah.
Does that seem to be a trend in Pittsburgh, does it? People selling up their churches?
Well, it's the Catholic Church is shutting down churches left and right.
Yeah.
So
to pay for the rape.
Yeah.
To pay for the Pope's Twitter account.
Right.
Not the Twitter account itself, just the ceremony that they threw to celebrate the fact that he has a Twitter account.
And his guilt computer. And you can spell that either GILT or GUILT.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Very good.
But the funny thing is, because there's a couple of churches that are up for sale, and I guess they've seen the trend, so they won't sell them to people unless it's an endeavor that is in line with the Catholic Church, which would, I guess that limits it to brothels that cater to men who like small children.
Whoa, what did I walk in on?
Hey,
How's it going, everybody?
So, whom does God wrong in commanding the destruction of the Canaanites? Not the Canaanite adults, for they were corrupt and deserving of judgment. Not the children, for they inherit eternal life. So who is wronged? Ironically, I think the most difficult part of this whole debate is the apparent wrong done to the Israeli soldiers themselves. Can you imagine what it would be like to have to break into some house and kill a terrified woman and her children? The brutalizing effect on the Israeli soldiers is disturbing. William Lane Craig. Today's Laughing in Purgatory segment is brought to you by William Lane Craig's cluster bombs. A William Lane Craig cluster bomb is not just one bomb, but carries many, many bombs inside of it. It's designed to kill, maim, and devastate as many non-combatants as possible. William Lane Craig says, God would want the ancient Israelites to have cluster bombs. Why shouldn't you go get some? Go buy a gaggle today. Welcome, you godless sons and daughters of reason. Welcome those who proudly say, this shit doesn't make any sense regardless of how many pedophiles in Rome says it's real. This is Andrew Hall. This is the Laughing in Purgatory segment of the Left Hemispheres podcast. Let's do this thing. I've been irritated lately, and it's all about the rapture and Jesus supposedly coming back to judge our world. I am an atheist, obviously, but I'd like to see Jesus come back just to see a vast majority of Christians shit their pants. Can you imagine if Jesus really came back and was taking a world tour before judging the planet? Asshole Christians would get together just to get their stories straight. I imagine there would be a big meeting, maybe in the Creation Museum, and I think it would go something like this. Okay, we gotta get this done fast. Jesus is hanging out with the Buddhists. Damn right we got something wrong if Jesus is hanging out with them before us. But regardless, he's due in 5 minutes, so let's pull it together. Mr. NRA, you over there in the corner, can you tell me how you're gonna make sense of turning the other cheek while selling assault rifles for home defense? Well, we're thinking that Jesus would want his sheep to be tactically superior. No. You gotta do better than that. That's not gonna work. Come up with something that makes sense. Okay, you guys from the Vatican Bank. How are you going to square Jesus being poor and telling everyone to give up their possessions and all this papal bling? It's been awfully busy over here in Rome with electing the new pope. We haven't gotten around to figuring it all out. If Jesus came back a week later, maybe the man's been dead for 2,000 years, and you're telling me you haven't had enough time to study for the goddamn test. Get to work. Please, tell me that you pro-lifers in favor of the death penalty have a better idea what's going on here. Texas. You, over there, Texas. How are you doing with executing the mentally disabled? Well, sir, business is good. We're killing them just like Jesus told us to do in the good book. What? Jesus never told you to kill people who are mentally disabled. Jesus didn't kill the sick. You just don't do that. That makes you a douchebag. You heal the sick. You take care of the sick. You don't electrocute the sick. Jesus Christ, we are all fucked. And that's how I think that this little cabal meeting would go a few minutes before Jesus showed up. I hope you enjoyed this small rant of mine. If you've enjoyed any of my new silly sounds, silly voices, silly whatever, you can leave a comment on the blog. And you can find me always at laughinginpurgatory.com. I'll see you next time.
Martin, are you aware of the Left Hemispheres podcast rules?
No, please tell me.
There's only one. You're not allowed to discuss marsupials.
Really, because I was going to talk about the danger of drop bears.
Well, I know you guys could barely contain yourself talking about marsupials. That's all I hear. But we're from America, and we have proper furry animals with placentas here, and I don't want to hear it.
We do have possums.
We have possums, but they're
True.
freaks.
It's the only thing that they. It's
Nobody-
the only thing
none
that
of the
they can
animals
talk
like
about
them.
that don't freak Americans out. I mean, you talk about marsupials, they're cute and furry. Everything else in Australia is trying to kill you.
Oh, except for Yahoo Serious.
No, he does that.
He's
He
trying to
poisons
kill
you.
you.
inside.
There's that weird thing
Is
where
he
when
still-
you flush
is
the
he
toilet,
still
the water
working?
goes around in the opposite direction. That's just plain
Jesus.
strange.
Coriolis effect.
Yeah.
Yes, that. Well, we've got two mammals that actually lay eggs. So
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Swine
the echidna and the the echidna and the platypus. So
And
We're just trying
the
to be
only
different,
mammal
really.
that has poison.
Not true.
Yes.
Not
What else?
anymore.
Steve,
Oh,
What
they
other
just
mammal?
discovered
he
a
sent an
new
article through the
primate.
Yeah, there's a primate with
Human
glands
beings.
on its elbows.
Oh,
Yeah, it's in the Friday link dump. I put it, I believe, or did I? Yeah, I think it's in there. Yeah, it's like a slow loris, and it has like these glands on its elbows that it licks, and they secrete like a toxin, and then it licks the toxin, and so it like coats its mouth with the toxin, and then if it bites something, it's quite painful.
That's-
It's like just identified. I think it's in Borneo.
that
sounds
sounds like
about
something. That sounds like something from a Clive Barker movie. It licks its elbows and then bites things.
You ever try to lick your elbow?
It's like a night breed.
you can't lick your elbow unless you
No,
got a
you
very
can't.
long tongue.
I knew a guy who could lick his elbow.
And you became very good friends with him, correct?
I already thought it was disgusting. CBS was interviewing some of the kids
No.
that had run out.
What sort of a question would you ask a kid that's just?
They were asking them what happened, as if that really needs to be told by an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
I got home and I turned on the news, and that was the first thing I saw, and I turned the news off. I just couldn't. I honestly could not handle watching them do that.
It's as horrible as it is for everyone else. Technically speaking, asking someone to go back over the experience and actually talk about what they saw, what they heard, what they smelled is actually better for dealing with the trauma later. So as horrible as it is, it's probably not as bad as you think it is.
Well, but there's a difference
It's just in
between
really poor taste.
There's a difference between teachers and parents and
Counselors.
talking with kids about what they experienced.
Oh, and a
And
camera in their
Than
face with the
than
lights.
a
And
camera
yeah.
in their face and a journalist with a microphone. Yeah.
It's still fucking abhorrent. I'm just saying that it's not quite as bad as it could be.
Like our compulsory religious education in primary schools, which is
Your chaplains in schools, right?
school chaplains as well, which is a different thing again. We have compulsory CRE, which is an hour a week for primary schools, where a non-trained non-teacher comes in and basically babbles on about the Bible for an hour, and then it's up to the real teacher who was in attendance at the time when has to be in attendance at the time that these kids get delivered their sermon for the week. The poor teacher has to spend the next 3 days undoing all that bullshit that they've been fed. But yeah, so it's an interesting time over here in Australia in terms of, but like I say, we don't have the same sort of influence in our daily lives as you do, from coming from religious people.
Well, it's interesting that, I mean, like my experience with I really didn't think back on it as this until later, as far as like a religious interference in my education. When I was in the 9th grade, was when I had biology for the first time, and I remember at some point during that class, the teacher asked about Sicilians, the worm-like creatures, and asked about them, and I said, well, they're vertebrates, but they're very primitive vertebrates, and evolutionarily they're kind of low on the scale. They don't have a true backbone, but they kind of do, and
Notochord.
right, they have a notochord, right. And then when I mentioned about evolution, he said, "Well, we're not going to get into that." And I was 14, 15 years old at the time, and I didn't really
What
think
class
about
was this in? Biology
it.
class?
This is biology, right? This was in the basic biology class that you take when you're about 14, 15 years old.
I find that just horrifying that you could even attempt to teach biology without touching on the theory of evolution.
Which
And
is
they
like
did
biology.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I have to say,
It was amazing how they talked about the different classifications. They touched on the connectivity between the different groups, but they did not talk about evolution explicitly.
I was like in my early 20s and in grad school before I realized that people really believed in creationism. I didn't even understand. I had no concept.
I'll grant you that. It never even occurred to me to ask the question.
Because I didn't think anybody really believed that shit until I moved to Alabama for grad school. When I went down there, I know, but
higher education in Alabama.
Here I am. I'm a Yankee in Alabama teaching anthropology, and imagine my surprise when I went down there. I'm like, wait a minute, you were taught what? And therefore, I was hated, but because my reaction was totally like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Because I had a fantastic science teacher in high school who talked about evolution as matter of fact, because it is.
As it should be. As
it should be. And I thought our school district was I had no concept of how, I talked to some people I'm friends with now, other bloggers and whatnot, and, I'm shocked at what they learned in high school. Because I thought our high school did a great job of being secular and science based, and I don't know if it was just my teachers or what.
It's just the actual discussion of how natural selection works didn't happen in my biology.
Right.
I learned how to do electrophoresis, but we didn't actually do that. I learned to look at DNA markers, but we didn't actually talk about how one creature evolves into another creature.
I had an interesting experience with this because I actually started in a more smaller town, more rural area before I moved to the same school as Steve and Jack. So
Jersey?
This is Bangor, Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere.
So where does it mean?
No, there's a Bangor, Pennsylvania. It's once you hit 3rd Street, you're out of town.
Yeah. But I remember distinctly the science teacher saying, "All right, we're going to talk about evolution. I recognize that this is a sensitive topic. We're not going to test on it. I'm required to teach it, but I understand that some of you might not want." He had this whole speech, which just made me lean forward. Some people don't even want to learn about this. I can't get enough of it. And he broke the whole thing down. It was my first real introduction to what it was. I had a general idea. I was probably in 7th grade. But it just made perfect sense. And he had even interjected his own, we don't know what got the process started. I believe that, that there was some kind of, basically he was a theist. And I believe that someone got the ball rolling. And then from there on, this is how the process worked, which was enough for me because that's at the time.
It's almost a close enough statement for the high school to at least not proclaim close enough. That's good. Let's move on from there.
Right. Yeah,
and that's how my parents are.
Yeah.
Well, thinking back on it,
they are.
The in my school, even going back to the 7th grade. The 7th grade, I think, was actually the only time when evolution was explicitly talked about. And it was not actually in science class.
English class.
It was actually in the social studies class for 7th grade, which was ancient cultures. And it started with Paleolithic man. And then moved. And then
you can't avoid it, then, can you? You actually can't avoid it if you're going to talk about the advent of social. Anyway, go on. Yep.
Right. So it was.
Well, each missing link gets filled and creates two new links, two new missing ones. Anyway, that's how it goes.
which is the gap that atheists just can't fill.
The gap that keeps on giving.
The gap that keeps on giving.
Now,
even in biology class, it just is assumed that everyone is on board with the truth.
Well,
right.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I grew up. My stepfather's a minister, and I grew up with evolution being completely acceptable. And the thing was, they didn't even push theistic evolution. I mean, that wasn't even discussed. It was just evolution is fact in my house.
Because facts are facts regardless of who believes them.
Exactly.
If you just look at that,
well, there's that thing. They came from the generation that actually trusted scientists before the evangelicals.
Before the distrust. Yeah.
Exactly. Before the evangelicals started with the campaign of misinformation.
Right. And let's face it, a couple years before we were all born, somebody landed on the moon. You know what I mean? Like, science worked.
It's not just coming from the evangelicals, though. I mean, like I say, we don't have that sort of problem here in terms of religion invading all aspects of our life. But the distrust of science is a global problem, and it's not necessarily just coming from religious.
No.
Australia has a similar problem with the United States in that aspect with the anti-vaccine movement.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you guys have it.
Yeah, Australia and the United States and the UK have horrible problems with
you guys have you have a big holistic thing, don't you? Like
homeopathy.
Homeopathy.
Homeopathy. We've got a huge push
prevalent over there than it is here. Not that it's not here. And for fuck's sake, let's not get Nick rolling on vaccines again. We don't need another 20-minute, goddamn fuckers.
Staccato diatribe.
Yeah. To make it easy,
fuck yourself.
to make it easy, just point the listeners to the World Health Organization. They can look it up themselves.
Exactly.
But about a year ago, my wife sent me to the store. She sent me to the store to buy a certain product. And she said, this is what it is. I want you to go buy it. So I went, I picked it up off the shelf, paid for it, got back home, actually looked at it, and it said there's a homeopathic cure. And I started to berate her for the fact that she made me pay $6 for a goddamn sugar pill. And
placebo.
And yeah, you're right, $6 for a fucking placebo. And she ended up not taking it because I apparently had shamed her so much. I don't feel good about there's a part of me that feels good about that. There's part of me that doesn't feel good about that. I don't feel good about the fact that I shamed my wife. Right. But there's a part of me that feels good, like went up for science. Right. So
woo.
On the other hand, if you hadn't said anything and she took the placebo, there was a 50% chance.
I wouldn't even say a 50% chance. I would say placebos in that circumstance would probably be less than 50% because I think placebos are more effective at long term. I think placebos are probably more effective at terminal illnesses than.
Well, no, I think placebos for a short term thing. They give this kind of psychological, I do feel better, even though I really don't. You
immediate
focus on the
short-term,
illness
ultimate
less. Well, I agree with that.
It's not that there's any, physical change. It's just there's a psychological effect.
Well, I agree with that, but I think that there is. It's the idea of the same thing with the studies on prayer.
I was going to say that intercessory prayer, right?
Yeah,
or just the faith healing people.
People who think, it's not people who actually have prayer for them. People who think that people are praying for them tend to do better
in the short term.
In the long term. People who have people who have cancer, who think that people are praying for them, tend to do better than those who do not believe that people are praying for them.
Wasn't there a study though that showed, and it might have been just an anecdotal finding, that people who were actually being prayed for had a worse results than those that weren't being prayed for.
I've heard that too.
That may be.
But that I think is anecdotal. I think it is just a fact of the outcome of that particular
study. It might even be like that statistically.
I think the overall studies have shown that it is not whether or not somebody is actually praying for someone else. It is whether or not someone thinks that people are praying for them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like it's very much like thinking that Jesus is going to be on your side.
Right.
Right. You know, like it's that sort of thought of having the backup behind you, and and in your corner or whatever.
Right. There's a release of endorphins that promotes a healthy body. It makes you happy and contributes to your overall well-being, and therefore you feel healthier, and you tend to be healthier. And it actually has nothing to do with whether or not someone is actually saying, Hail Mary, fully raised, blah, blah, blah.
Walking into a church, a little tiny church in the coal region, or those things where everybody is just poor, and then you walk into this church and there's like marble floors, and there's like stained glass, and there was this enormous crucifix with like a full-scale Jesus bleeding from the palms, and I walk in, I go, fuck, in my head, I'm like, oh my god.
What the fuck is that shit? Yeah, no, I remember the first, I grew up Lutheran, and I remember the first time I walked into a Catholic church, at least that I can remember, I was probably, I don't know, like 9 or 10, and my dad had remarried a Catholic woman, and the first time I went to a Catholic service, I was completely bugged out. Like, I just was like, this is weird. I don't like this at all. I'm really freaked out. Because there was like all this imagery that was like even more intense and graphic, and they're walking around with his incense. I mean, it's a petty thing, but at the time I was just like totally weirded out by it. And I think it contributed to my further weird, like being like, this is all very strange. I always had like.
I grew up in a Presbyterian family, which is all based on pain. And it's very Calvinist, right?
It is.
You fucking deserve what you get, you son of a bitch. Regardless, because it's all fucking preordained, whether or not you're going to be a sinner or a saint. I remember the first time that apparently they had done some kind of interdenominational exchange thing, and we showed up at this Lutheran church, and they weren't standing the entire time, which is part of being a Presbyterian, is standing the entire fucking time until you pass out. Yes, because it's excruciating to stand there for the entire goddamn time.
Because God hates you.
Right. Well, exactly. Because you're a miserable. I mean, if anybody is a more miserable fucking person than a Catholic, it's a Presbyterian.
I thought it was atheists.
Depends who's running the study.
Dude, I'm all good. I'm right. I'm right.
It's a very odd situation.
What's even odder? The U.S. president is a Kenyan Muslim who is supporting gay rights.
It's all part of Sharia, don't you know?
Fatwas abound right at this point.
I love the accusations of Sharia in the same breath of allowing homosexuals to marry. It's just so absurd.
Well, that's because he's an atheist Muslim.
Or as Newt Gingrich would call it, the secularist agenda that will allow fundamentalist Muslims to take over. Because that makes sense.
Because that's what secularists want is
I want Sharia.
Yes.
And that goes.
I am drinking in the Sharia.
Right.
Sounds like a wine.
Yeah.
That was part of it. I thought we had that article on here, but we don't. One about whoever it was who said that. No, it was a different article that I read today. But there was an article that basically said that atheists should admit it and say that they don't just have a problem with all religions; they have a problem with Christianity specifically.
Oh yeah,
I sent that out. That was Crescat from Patheos. Patheos.
That to me just seems like it's an extremely limited bubble to America.
Well,
because Christianity is
There's a
Well,
bubble.
that
There's
fits
a lot
into
of
the
them,
religious
yeah.
privilege topic. That
Right.
I'm pretty sure that atheists coming out of Egypt don't particularly hate Christianity more than any other.
Exactly. I'm sure
It's
that
all of what you know.
Yeah.
right. Indonesia, and you're exactly right. It's
Atheists in Iran probably complain about Islam a lot.
Yes. And I would imagine
As
that
much as they were
atheists
allowed
Very
to without
quietly to themselves.
fucking
atheists in
hung.
the Maldives are very much the same way if they don't find themselves strung up from a tower at the airport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about what type of apostate you are. Is
Well,
what
they
it comes
actually
down
play
to.
into. I mean, you actually hear that argument from Christians, where it's just, well, if we were Muslims, we'd be killing you for saying that, and that's supposed to make it better that you're a slightly less oppressive oppressor.
That's like them telling
well,
us that
thank you,
atheism-
Christian, for
atheism
not
is a
killing
religion.
me. I appreciate that. That's so nice of you.
I am glad you've decided not to
Thank you
invoke
for.
a crusade against.
You still think I'm a second class person, but at least you don't think you should kill me.
Thank you for observing the Yuletide greetings of not killing me for being a fucking apostate. If you happen to see him, say hello to Yahoo Serious for me. I really did appreciate young Einstein. I did.
Most
I
nonsensical.
thought it was amazing how he, fermented beer and carbonated it, through the process of nuclear fission.
You know
That's
that
genius.
it's actually based on the real life of Albert Einstein. He was a mad professor. He was crazy.
So, by the way, since we're on a stall here,
Yeah.
the Catholic Church thing that I talked about,
Right.
The official term for it was a formal defectation from the church, which you could request up
Yeah.
until 2009, and they removed any mention of it from canonical law. Then, so now you can still defect from the church. You can have a de facto defection, but only if you switch to another religion.
Get the fuck out.
So as long as you're staying in a religion, if you can't leave for atheism, you can leave for anything else. I don't know if maybe you can do some kind of roundabout through Buddhism or something, but
Right.
You have to pick an atheistic religion.
yeah, and then just stop caring.
That's where I was going. I've written about this a whole bunch, about liberal theology and the attitude moderates have, and it's really kind of logically indefensible.
Right, it's like
Well, and they're
Mormons pointing at Scientologists and saying, "You believe some weird shit,"
Yeah.
Doesn't.
it's
also-
even on our side. I mean, there were several people that I responded to this week about this that were saying, "Oh, it's against the tenets, which is ridiculous, but against the principles of humanism to insult these people." And they were talking not just about the Instance Muslims video, but they were also talking about like the Hirsi Ali article
Mhm.
That we're going to discuss later. And the point that I brought to them was, how is critical thinking, skeptical inquiry, how is that against the premises of humanism? That's part of the principles of humanism, skeptical inquiry.
I think what people confuse is purposeful mockery versus
Constructive criticism.
yeah, exactly. And I think they still. I mean, I absolutely believe in the power and the constructive ability of mockery or deconstructive ability of mockery. But that's not what that's not. I don't think that's what we're talking about here. That tends to happen. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with very, very, very liberal, progressive Christians that quickly go astray
because they cannot let me finish my point before they just jump in to defend whatever it is I'm criticizing, even constructively, and even when I'm being really, really kid gloved mild. But yeah, the whole leftist ideology is one of relativism, basically.
Which I think is completely condescending to the vast majority of Muslims in the world. To be able to say that I don't respect you enough to disagree with you, like you're so fragile, and like they're almost
that
as if they're
seems relatively disrespectful of just about anybody. It's just, well, you need that, so we'll let you have it.
exactly.
Well, that's why I hate the apathy, my former attitude, the apatheist or the accommodationist atheist. Well, some people need that. Well, that's really selling people short, and you're really not thinking much of them when you say that.
That's where the notion of the arrogant atheist comes from, I think. I don't need that, but obviously you're stupid. You do.
Yeah.
It is condescending.
Like it's just for the simple people.
See, no matter what we say, it's condescending. No matter what we say, we're antagonistic. No matter what we say, we're antithetical.
Because we're still saying that you're wrong.
Yeah, our very existence is calling out that they're wrong. Just by saying, no, I don't believe. Because you can't really say, I don't believe what you believe, and I don't believe any of it, but you're not crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
your belief is still valid, even though I don't agree with a single word of it. You can't actually say that.
Which is the bullshit behind the coexist bumper sticker.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the reasons why I left the UUs, the Unitarian Universalists. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't go in there and smile and nod when you talk about how you talk to some long dead Roman goddess, last night in some ritual. Like, I can't do it. I can't nod and smile when you want to talk about happy Jesus when I've read the fucking Bible and I know he wasn't a happy guy.
Who spoke more about hell than anyone else?
I read, the anti-family values candidate, Jesus H. Christ. Leave your family. Don't start a family. Leave your family if you have one, because you got to pave the way for the kingdom. That guy. If they try to draw you away from me, bring them here so I can kill them.
I believe it's kill them and bring them
following in his father's footsteps.
Yeah. Just like Dad.
It's the family business.
I think all. That
let me sort them out.
The coexist. I think that the coexist, everybody get along, you believe what you believe, I believe what I believe, and everything will be all right thing could work if religion wasn't such a deeply rooted thing for people,
Yeah, well, if it was humanized,
I think without organized religion, that could work.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It would be Discordianism at that point, but it would work.
Yeah.
23, baby. 23.
You would have to remove a whole lot of theology there, though. I mean, obviously.
Well, yeah, because everyone would be picking and choosing, and at least it would be more interesting. Religion would be more like a creative exercise.
Coffee shops would kick ass in college towns.
Yeah.
We're getting a little off track.
I show up at IUP and there's this jackass shouting And it's a state-owned university, so he has complete right to be there as long as he's not hurting anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And for my intro to art class, for my final project, I decided to do a performance piece, which was to dress up in my Sunday best and go out there and compete against the Oak Grove preacher. But I was preaching the word of Chicken Little.
That's fantastic.
And in my loud Marine Corps voice, shied about Chicken Little and how Foxy Loxy is coming to get us. And all the while, the Oak Grove preachers screaming up blasphemy, pointing at me and those who deny it. I was screaming back at him about those who deny, the truth of the truth of the lies of Foxy Loxy and Chicken Little and his word about how the sky is falling and how we are damned. And it was interesting because I think one of the most interesting comments that I got was, "Do you think this is mature?" And I said, "Yes, I think it's mature. It's perfectly mature." I said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 24 years old." And they said, "Why are you acting like a child?" I said, "Acting like a child? I'm acting just like this guy over here."
If you change Jesus with aliens and you say the same thing about how you were saved and how you were once lost and now you're found, everybody thinks that you're crazy. And all you're doing is just changing a couple nouns. It's essentially, we're so used to the idea that when you tweak it just a little bit so you can see it for what it is, it sounds completely foreign. It's all batshit.
Yeah.
Steve, remember when I invited the Mormons to our house, to our apartment?
Oh, fucker.
I wanted a Book of Mormon. I didn't know how else to get one. They said if they came to your house, they'd give you a Book of Mormon to read, and I wanted to have one on my
I opened
shelf.
up the door and there's two fucking crackers standing there, and I say that like that because I'd never met whiter people before.
They were the whitest people I've ever seen. Yeah, it's
I
true.
open up the door and I just turn and go, "Adam, it's for you."
And then proceeds
Because they
to
were
crack
like, "Hi,
open a 40.
we're from the Latter-day Saints," and I just went, "Mm-hmm, Adam, it's for you."
When I was at IUP, the Mormons came by, and I've always been, I'll let anybody have their say, and I let them have their say for about 3 or 4 visits, and then they were, I think it was maybe like it was like the 4th visit, they were supposed to show up, and they didn't, and a couple of weeks went by. They show up at the door. They're like, "Oh, we're really sorry. We got caught up in these other appointments, blah, blah, blah." And I was just on my way out, probably to the bar. And and they were like, I'm like, I'm on my way out. Maybe we can do this another time. They're like, "Well, can we just come in and say a prayer with you?" I'm like, "Sure, come on." So they come in and they sit down on the couch, and I sit down on the other couch, and they start praying. And my dog, who's been my bosom buddy since she was 6 weeks old, and she was probably about 3 or 4 years old this time. She just starts doing that. And I go, "Oh shit!" And I stand up and I run to the back door and I open the back door and she goes out and she pukes in the backyard. And she goes back in and I say, "You know what, guys? My dog can't even take this shit. You need to."
Like the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
What would have been better would have been like, "You know what, guys? Maybe you should take that as a sign."
Yeah. It would have been really good if she just like exhaled bees. Just to weird them out. I've always wanted to do that, just like exhale bees. Like so whether
Like the line in the bank.
I had read something. Somebody.
Well, no, I do. I have Jehovah's Witnesses. There's a temple or whatever the fuck they call it.
Watchtower? I don't know.
The one, yeah. There's one right up the road.
You know,
They've come by here a couple times, and I just usually go, meh, 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 meh. I just kind of mumble and shut the door. But I would just love to sit there, roll my eyes in the back of my head, and just exhale some bees.
I knew
That's all I want to do in life. That's my superpower. I don't want to fly. I don't want to be
exhale
invisible.
bees.
I just want to exhale bees to weird people out. That's seriously. That's all I want in life. That's the problem when you read.
Yeah.
Well, actually watch TV or reading.
Oh, there's nothing worse
than
than being somewhere reading something out loud and hitting a word that you don't know how to pronounce, even though you know what it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
That happens with names all the time. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is.
I can't wait until he goes down there just kissing hands and shaking babies and like tries to actually connect with the Hispanic population. It's going to be a blast.
I got in a conversation at the aquarium this weekend with a friend, and they brought up something about wormholes and compared them to teleporters. And I got in a whole thing about how teleporters are a problem because they raise serious questions about the existence of the human soul.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Where it disintegrates you and puts you somewhere else, but it's not really the you that was there before.
Yeah, it's very Theseus's boat, and there's no way around that.
Yeah, pretty much. It destroys you and then recreates you somewhere else. Yay!
But you can't have teleporter technology without replicator technology, and I want replicator technology. That solves all our problems as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Cheesesteaks out the wazoo. Just cheesesteaks and tacos all day long, and they'll be nutritious as far as it is long.
Pump in greenhouse gases, get oxygen and pencils. Awesome.
Oxygen and pencils.
It's so much more about the institution,
right?
And the rules. And yeah, absolutely. I just recently had a conversation with someone who I've known for a very long time and did not know was a strict Catholic. I just found it very unusual, because it was a very kind of empowered intellectual woman, and I was just very surprised that she had views such as that that females shouldn't be priests because they're not the proper vessel. And I was like, oh, what?
What?
It's so vague.
It's vague, but I mean, the fundamental argument that they have for why gay marriage should be a bad thing, they always kind of go back to this, well, a child should be raised by their biological parents thing. But, I mean...
Where's that come from?
That doesn't seem to come from anywhere, and really, you want to talk about being raised by biological parents...
Jesus?
Yeah, Joseph wasn't Jesus' dad, and he raised him, and if it was good enough for the Son of God, why the fuck isn't it good enough for everybody else?
Well, here's the best thing about that. In this article, he actually had stated that, what is it, that it's, with regard to allowing same-sex couples to adopt, just that in itself is, quote, an attack on the traditional family unit. So how the fuck is it an attack on a family, on the family unit, to give a family to a person who doesn't have a family unit? What are you attacking?
I don't understand what the attack is.
And the attack is seriously because I don't think it is the children the way that they say it is the children. I don't think it's a matter of the children being somehow harmed by this. It's about the children believing that it's okay to be gay.
Right.
And that's what they can't get past.
And to wrap up this article, I'll just read one more quote from Benedict himself, because I've read this a couple times, and it's gobbledygook. When freedom to be creative becomes the freedom to create oneself, then necessarily the maker himself is denied, and ultimately man is too stripped of his dignity as a creature of God.
Yep. My deity can't take it. It hurts his holy feelings. The Pope has stated that the family is being threatened by a false understanding of freedom
Yeah.
And I don't really understand how a person can get a false understanding of freedom. It's basically your life and your body and your decisions as a consenting adult. Yeah, you're not actually free to do any of those things. You're only free when we tell you that you're free. You're only free to do the things that you're free to do the things that we tell you can do.
You know what would make an interesting interfaith experiment that I'd like to see the church take up for guys like this would be, as part of his rehabilitation, he has to do like a trading houses thing. And
you have to be like a rabbi?
No, like no. A Southern Baptist preacher.
Nice.
So this guy has to live with the loud Southern black woman for like a month.
Hey, you know what? That would actually be a reality show I would watch, where people of different religions, the leader of whatever church, temple, mosque, whatever, they all got to switch it up.
You could call it Trading Graces.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Excellent.
Holy shit, that's fucking awesome. Dude, we got to make this happen.
We can't
DLC.
Can't air this episode now because those fuckers will steal it. Because they are so goddamn hard up for a good idea.
Oh, yeah, just watch. Within 6 months, there'll be a fucking show on called Trading Graces on TLC.
And they'll have
about a comment on our blog.
And we will at least have it recorded.
Yes, it's true.
Sue the fuck out of them and stop doing this shit.
Yes, because we make so much money. We're losing money when we curse all the fucking time.
The thing about this too, though, as far as just his inability to see that those aspects of religion, is because it's very common, especially for religious people, to draw that correlation between their own goodness and their religion. So the same way that you'll see some members of the clergy, for example, conflating all the worst aspects of human nature that they can think of with sinfulness. The same kind of splitting occurs when you're thinking of all the good things that come from a person and conflating that with their faith and saying, well, I wouldn't be this good if it wasn't for my faith, which essentially is untrue. And this is where religious people sell themselves short on a regular basis, not recognizing how naturally good they are because they give all the credit. Right, because all the credit comes from this external source. The same way they externalize blame, they externalize credit.
As I was
that's what we talked about in the past was that, like the Catholic Church.
Yes.
If the Pope passes an edict, publishes a papal bull saying that interracial marriage is okay, or interfaith marriage is okay, or the gay marriage is okay. Not that he's done 2 out of 3 of those things. But if he does that, then it's because of his faith. It's because of the grace of God. It's because he's the vicar of Christ.
Not because it's the right thing to do. And he made a good decision.
But if he has done a bad thing, like signing the fucking Lateran Treaty with the goddamn Nazis, then he's a human being who is fallible, and that's on himself.
Right, and that's exactly the point.
I wasn't yelling at you, Steve.
Oh, no. I'm just saying Ron Paul is a shit stain.
Yes, Steve.
I can't fucking stand the man.
Well, I think that would fall into the same category as other supernatural claims, right?
Sure.
So if you're listening and you think that you're God, the James Randi Educational Foundation will give you $1 million if you can prove it.
Yep.
Go right ahead.
Now, what I know about neurology is like a drop in the bucket, but I know enough neurology. I know too much neurology to believe that a voice in my head is somehow convincing.
Yeah.
I would certainly seek professional help immediately. I would assume that that I was having an auditory hallucination. there's a difference between having a firm belief in something and dogma. And I don't know that I really understand it enough to explain it, but there is this line that you cross, like an event horizon, that suddenly you shut down any point of contention or anything that just doesn't vibe with what you already believe. And I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine feeling that way about atheism to a degree of just saying that there has to be an explanation for this. You know what I mean? If suddenly the ghost of my grandmother walks into my living room, I still would say there has to be a scientific explanation. But it's still not quite the same thing, because there's still a point where my mind would be able to change, because it would have to. And that's, I guess, where the dividing line is of dogmatism and that kind of conviction.
Speaking of, if we're done with this,
Yeah.
then while we're on Obama, we should segue to how he shouldn't be Times Man of the Year.
Yeah, no, that should be Malala.
Yeah, really? Yeah. It's great to recognize the man for the contributions he's made and all that other kind of stuff, but the Nobel wasn't really earned either. I understood it because of the significance of his appearance on the national stage and what that actually meant, and I at least I got it. I think it would have been much better if he would have turned that down, but whatever. He's not a humble man.
Is that an option?
Yeah,
Turn it down?
that's what I thought. Like, he was sort of just, I mean, what the fuck? You get offered it, you can't just say no. No thanks.
And I don't know. I don't know if that's even a possibility. But when it comes to, I mean, just courage, just raw courage, this girl is just incredible. And they actually like targeted her and like went onto her school bus and shot her in the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she was like, you know what? Fuck you. Gonna keep reading.
Yeah. And
As I've said before, she makes me feel like a punk. So I can't even believe that she was not the Times Person of the Year.
one of my friends said that they should have made it one of the teachers who was killed in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I said, no, it really should be this girl.
Yeah.
And one of his friends said, well, Time is an American magazine. Like, so? There's like 30, 40 people that, I mean, I forgot important stuff only happens in the U.S. I mean,
Hemisphere that matters.
They should take that back from like Gandhi and Churchill. Other people they gave it to who aren't from the U.S. maybe.
Hitler.
Stalin twice.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think that's all we got.
And as always, if you need to contact us with any questions, concerns, comments, catharsis,
Other C words.
other C words.
Some of which will cost you $10.
Yes, exactly. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, or our blog, Left Hemispheres, at blogspot.com. Let me try that again. Or at our blog, Left Hemispheres, blogspot.com.